Hello everyone and welcome to a very nice game from this week's early title Tuesday. It is Ediz Gürel versus Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Ediz no longer the youngest ever Turkish grandmaster, that is now Yuskan Erdemish, but he's at the moment the highest rated player from Turkey. And MVL, of course, we all know MVL, doesn't really need any introduction. He's been battling it out with the strongest players for the last 20 years, competing with Magnus, with Hikaru, with Anish, with everyone basically. And he represents, I would say now already, the old guard, and he now has to fight, like everyone else, the new and upcoming forces in the chess world, such as Ediz here. And it's a really fun game. It features a move that I'm not sure many of you will be able to find, but that's what makes it interesting. And they're both on sort of a winning streak. Ediz is on a 7-game winning streak, and Maxime, well, not on a 7-game winning streak. He's only on a 3-game winning streak. This is round 10, I believe, out of the 9 rounds that he played prior to this. He won 8 and drew 1. But in the last 3 games, he defeated Duda, Hikaru, and Alexis Arana. So both of them doing incredibly well. This could easily be the game that decides the tournament. And one of these two gentlemen has indeed won the tournament, or maybe shared first place. So let's see what happened. Ediz with white opens with knight to f3. We have pawn to d5 and pawn to b3. Going for the Nimzovich-Larsen attack, we have knight to f6, bishop to b2, and bishop to f5. Okay, nothing spectacular. Everything we've seen before. G3, we have e6, bishop to g2, and bishop to e7. We have castles kingside, h6, and pawn to d3. We have pawn to c6 and knight b to d2, knight b to d7, and pawn to c4. We're not going to overanalyze it as it's 3-minute blitz, and also this has all been played before. If you look at the situation on the clocks, they have spent mere seconds as they've started with 3 minutes on the clock. We have castles kingside, pawn to a3. We have pawn to a5, bishop to c3, preparing that pawn to b4. And the bishop to h7. We have pawn to b4 right away. A captures, queen to c7. And here, the first real thing of the game, queen to b3. Thought about the move for some, maybe 9 seconds. We have pawn to e5, striking in the center. And now there are a couple of games that reach this position, where, for example, rook captures on a8 was played, knight to e1 was played, bishop to b2 was played. But here we have c captures on d5, and it is now, as of move 15, that we have a completely new game. And both players spent mere 15 seconds reaching this position. So very, very interesting stuff. And obviously, everyone, including your uncle, plays c captures on d5 here, improving the center, and it is the top move recommended by the engine. But it's one of those situations where you have to be really, really strong in order not to play that. So Maxime played c captures on knight captures on d5. We have rook a to b1, and now pawn to b5, stopping white from advancing the pawn to b5 to weaken the knight and then open up this diagonal. So pawn to b5, weakening the c6 pawn somewhat, still very nice. Rook f to c1 and rook to a7, preparing to double up on the a file. Bishop to h3, and Maxime doubles up on the a file. We have bishop captures on d7, queen captures, and now just knight captures on e5. So Maxime gave up a pawn, but he has some very, very nice counterplay if he plays this correctly, which he doesn't. Maxime played queen to d6 here, and for a very particular reason. He wants to put more pressure on the knight, and also he wants to put more pressure on this b4 pawn, because rook to a3 will be a very, very strong move for Maxime. And if the bishop moves back, then he will weaken that b4 pawn. Maxime will capture it, then he will have a passed b pawn, and that is the game plan. But you should do it by playing queen to e8. That is the point. And now white really doesn't have anything better than capturing on c6. And after knight captures on c6 and queen captures, bishop to d4, white will win the exchange. That is fine, but probably, Maxime wouldn't have any regrets playing something like this. Rook captures, and okay, white is up 2 pawns. White is up an exchange, but it's perfectly fine. Or rather, not an exchange, 2 pieces for the rook, but yeah, it's a nice position. Also up 2 pawns. So it would be around equalish. But here, after knight captures on e5, queen to d6 was played, and now there is one move that really makes it maybe not impossible, but at this time control, very, very hard to play this position. So what did Maxime miss here? That is the real question, and really difficult to spot. So have at it while I give you a couple of seconds. Bishop to b2. The very move Maxime prevented with queen to d6 is the move that will win the game. Because now there's nothing better for Maxime than to just defend the c6 pawn. It's being attacked, so you have to play rook to c7, move the rook from such an active square, play a little bit passively, and then maybe you can survive, but still it's going to be very hard. In the game, queen captures on b4 was played, and now we have knight captures on c6, attacking the queen, the rook, the bishop. Queen captures on b3, knight captures on b3, and now you would very much maybe like to play rook to c7, but it wouldn't help you. Knight captures on e7, this comes with check, and after rook captures, rook to c5, you will win the b5 pawn as well, and then you're just going to be up 2 pawns in a completely winning position. For example, knight c7, you're just going to attack the knight. Now the knight has to move, knight e6, for example, you capture on b5, you're up 2 pawns, and completely winning. It's also a pass d pawn, so we're just going to push it, and yeah, very nicely played. But rook to d7 by Maxime, this is a little bit better. Knight to c5, attacking the rook, rook to c7, attacking the knight. Knight captures with check, rook captures, and pawn to e4, kicking away the knight from such an active square. Knight to c7 and rook to a1. Gaining the a file for the white rook. Rook captures on a1. We have rook captures, and now pawn to f5. It's very hard for MVL to get his bishop into the game. It's stuck on h7, and doesn't seem like it's gonna get out anytime soon. Pawn to f3. We have king to f7 and king to f2. We have pawn to g5, rook to a7. Not a lot of moves for MVL here. Bishop to g6, activating a little bit, but only a little bit. We have bishop to e3, preparing to attack the rook when the knight moves. Knight to e6, offering a trade. So idea being, of course, that if you capture, then rook captures, rook will be played. So just knight to d7, attacking the rook, and there's no good move for Maxime here. Maxime played rook to e8, and I could ask you to pause the video, but really every move is winning here, so I'm not going to do that. Ediz played knight to f8 with check, and he was in this position on move 34 that MVL resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. And I'm going to show you how the game might conclude, because sometimes I'm not going to do it all the way, but here it's actually a beautiful position, because after you have to go somewhere to defend the bishop on g6, otherwise the knight will just capture it. Bishop to b2 check, and that's it. Now you just have to start giving up material. There are no squares for the black king. You will have to give up the knight, then you're going to have to give up the rook. Okay, you can capture on g6 first. Let's say king captures, bishop captures, and you don't even have a move. Rook to g7 is coming. White will just play something like g4, or if, let's say, f captures, d captures, let's say pawn to h5, pawn to h4, g captures, we can play g captures, pawn to b4, pawn to f4, and there's nothing for black to play. You can just push a pawn, f5, check, king to h8, and now a bishop to f4 will be checkmate. So of course it's winning. Everyone knows it's winning. You're up 2 pieces, but it's just very nice, so I decided to show it all the way. So yeah, very nicely played by both of them, but it is Gurel who takes this one. And yeah, really nice play. After knight captures on e5, Maxime completely missed queen to e8. He played queen d6, went after the b4 pawn, and the very thing he tried to prevent was the cause of his demise, as it often is in chess. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. If you have any game that you really enjoyed from Title Tuesday, also use that hashtag suggestion, and I will gladly cover it. I would like to thank Alan Charbonneau, Seshadri Subramanian, Nick Lin, Paul Hinamund, and Ricardo Cordona Lopez for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.